on Tech News Today, Lulzsec's press release says, frankly, Internet, we don't give a beep. RIM loses a big investor. Their stock's way down, and they've delayed Blackberry 7s, but everything's cool, says their co-CEO team. Really? Is Spotify really coming to the U.S.? Is Facebook really releasing an iPad app? These answers may surprise you. All that and more coming up.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Friday, June 17th, 2011. Tech News Today is brought to you by Netflix. Watch thousands of TV episodes and movies on your PC, your Mac, your iPad, your iPhone, or your TV instantly. All streamed directly to you, saving you time, money, and hassle. For your free 30-day trial, go to netflix.com/twit. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Sarah Lane.
I'm Iyaz Akhtar.
And I'm Jason Howell.
This is the show where we drink beer while kicking around the tech stories of the day and trying to make sense of them all.
That's because it's Friday. Normally, there's not beer, at least on air.
That's true. It's Liquid Friday. We've been a little off, but Tom's out today. He's at Nerdtacular in Utah with a bunch of other nerds. I'm actually kind of jealous. They look like they're having a good time so far. But we're holding down the fort on Liquid Friday. I wasn't here last Liquid Friday, so I don't know what you guys were doing. There was like a vodka bottle.
I'll tell you what, I went for it. I drank this thing of water. But it was liquid. It qualified.
Of course, anything that has liquid in it.
Vodka, and I don't know what Tom had.
Yeah, something else. So we're just keeping it simple with a few beers today, while we discuss Lulzsec, who may be brought to justice, but just don't really care.
Yeah.
The longer version of it is, it turns out that Lulzsec pretty much talks to folks via Twitter, and they have now tweeted 1,000 times. Which is okay. That's many tweets, I suppose. But they decided to issue a press release kind of around the fact that, hey, happy 1,000 tweets to us, but really more of an excuse to explain themselves a little bit further because, of course, they've been in the news. We've been talking about them as well as many other tech news outlets, and they want to set a few things straight.
Yeah, they've swept this week. They've been on every episode of Tech News Today this week. And they in their press release, they had some nice gems of information explaining how... basically explain their point of view, why they're doing what they're doing. And the fact is they're saying, look, at least we're being public about our hacks. I mean, there are people out there that are hacking already, but you don't even know about it. So isn't it better that you know? Doesn't that make us great? Yeah,
it's a response to the folks, the people who say, listen, who are criticizing them, saying, listen, just because you can do this, I mean, you are hurting innocent people by publishing this sort of information online. They didn't ask for this. You don't have beef with them. The beef you have with Sony, the variety of companies is more of like a corporate beef just to prove that you can do things. Why are you exposing these people to all of this? And they kind of say, listen, do you think that we're exposing everything that we actually have? We're sitting on all sorts of information that we haven't made
Brick
public
accounts,
yet.
a whole bunch of that stuff. And then on top of that, they're like, oh, by the way, you'll forget about us in a couple of months. Something screwball will happen, and then you'll forget all about us. So don't even worry about Lulzsec. And even if we do get brought to justice, we're fine with it. We're just doing this for the lulz.
Well, this is why this press release reads a little bipolar. Because on one hand, they say, listen, we understand that you think that we're doing harm, but on one hand, we're helping companies be more secure because we're exposing them. And we're not even exposing everything that we find. Some of the stuff we just have, right? But we don't really care anyway, and this is all very funny to us. And if, there was some sort of, like a relationship being ruined on Facebook because somebody had, changed a picture, that sort of thing, it's like, that's just funny and lulzy. And, I start to get to the point now where it's like, I know we have to report on this because it's news, but it's just, I'm starting to feel dirty about the whole thing.
Will you ever forget Lulzsec? I mean, are you going to remove your Lulzsec tattoo or what?
I mean, I'd like to forget them. I don't want to get hacked by them, but I mean, I just feel like it's like, yes, okay, you're bullies. You're bullying people. I know there are companies that are supposed to know better and should have been more secure. This is the same problem I had with Anonymous. I mean, I feel like I've kind of repeated myself about the stance I have here, but it's just there's this kind of whole like we're so awesome, we're so funny. It's like people have different senses of humor. I mean, I don't really see anything funny about this at all.
Speaking of Anonymous, Lulzsec actually clarified, they're saying they're not going after Anonymous or the whole of 4chan, just one particular part of 4chan. Just because Anonymous uses 4chan doesn't mean they were going after the whole of either one. So they just wanted to make sure everyone was clear on that.
Everyone's clear that they're only going after the board that cannot be named, or whatever it's called, which is okay. I mean, can you say for certain that people who frequent that particular part of 4chan aren't frequenting the rest?
I cannot.
They probably know more about it than we do, how this all works. So Lulzsec, if you're interested in reading their press release, it's online. You can read it and draw your own conclusions as you wish. So right as we went to air yesterday on the show, Iyaz, you had just gotten out, well, you hadn't gotten out of the RIM's investor call, but you had gotten some information.
Ended, and there was a ton of terrible.
It was basically bad news.
That's right. And so pretty much after that, there was a whole bunch of aftermath after RIM's earnings announcement yesterday. So people had a whole day to digest what happened. And RIM's sixth biggest investor, who owns 10.2 million shares as part of a fund, the chairman of that fund, the Jarislowsky Fraser Limited, they are selling off half of their holdings of RIM. So that's not doing too well. He says, we're on the way out. They are resting on their laurels. Steve Jobs is a much better marketer than RIM. And RIM stock was down 21% today, just today. Apart from that, there was some more information that came out about why BlackBerry devices were being delayed. It turns out BlackBerry, or RIM, is actually porting their operating system over to Qualcomm Snapdragon. So they have good processors, but that's taking them a lot longer. So that's just...
It's good news for Qualcomm. It's bad news for RIM trying to get some sales in pre-new school year, for example.
Yeah, that, and the other thing is, why would anyone want to buy a BlackBerry now when better ones are coming in the fall?
Exactly. It's sort of like a holdover type of a thing, and nothing great going to happen in the near future, which RIM really needs because their stock is down quite a bit. Jarislowsky, yeah, I had problems with that too. Fraser, they're selling off more than half of their holdings, and they own 10.2 million shares. Well, they did.
They did. I mean, as of March 30th.
Yeah, that's a really big. That's a big drop.
I mean, they've pretty much lost faith.
And they said publicly, "We're out of here."
That can't be good. I mean, on top of that, people from inside the company, former RIM employees, are talking. They're talking to Business Insider, saying the problem is that they brim with hubris regarding their successes in the corporate market, and they are culturally blind to the gaping holes in their armor regarding consumers. Then, on top of that, the co-CEOs during the earnings calls said some pretty suspect things that people are just having a lot of fun with. Quote, our co-CEO arrangement is what led to RIM's successes over the past 2 decades, and RIM has taken a unique path, and the reason why we do things might not always be obvious from the outside.
Which, you know, I have to give it to these guys. I'm sure that they believe that that's true, and RIM has had a lot of success. These two have worked together, I think they said, about 20 years now. So they're right, but are they going to continue to be right over the next 2 years? I mean, the market just has changed on RIM so much in such a short amount of time. It's like it's hard to listen to the co-CEOs of RIM saying, "We know what we're doing. Look at our track record. We're fine. We're awesome. RIM is cool," and not think, "Do you guys are you paying attention to the marketplace? Are you looking at your stock? You know, your investors are upset. People are writing scathing reviews about what's next for RIM, and it doesn't look good. The numbers are going down. They speak for themselves." So it's like people need to believe in themselves. They obviously do. Or maybe it's just lip service.
I think it's a lose-lose situation. They can't freak out and say, "Okay, look, we know that we've been doing a horrible job. Yeah, it's going to be fine." Like, they can't say that, or like the stock will even drop further. But this thing almost looks delusional. Some of these quotes are just silly, to the point where you have these co-CEOs, which is a very unusual arrangement in any corporate structure. You don't have co-CEOs. You have a CIO, a CEO. You have all these different chief executives, but they're not sharing the same role. And so it could be partly because of that very unique structure. And they've been kind of transitioning for the past year or two. So it's not like it's, the tablet market just showed up. We had no idea what to do. Or we don't know how to make a tablet work with our email client, or have an email client. They should have been able to get that stuff.
Well, the 4G playbook is supposed to arrive this fall at some point. So maybe they'll have some of these problems. I don't know.
It's just sad.
I'm almost like, why even bother?
And the one more thing. RIM's VP of Digital Marketing and Media, Brian Wallace, is leaving for Samsung Mobile, where he'll be the VP of Strategic Marketing for the U.S. there. So pretty much earnings report on Thursday, and this guy gone by today. So that's not good.
Right, and a lot of stock sold. Rim, your move. All right, moving on now to Spotify. Some good news for folks in the U.S. who are wondering when Spotify is going to launch here. Spotify exec has hinted that the U.S. launch might be as soon as a couple weeks away, but he didn't really say that. Spotify general manager Jonathan Forster told Silicon Valley Watcher, "We won't launch before July 5th. So that means they could launch on July 6th.
It could happen.
Or they could launch, in 5 years.
That's right. Considering how long.
But what we know for a fact is it's not going to happen between now and July 5th.
Right.
That's what we know.
We've got a couple weeks free of Spotify yet in the U.S.
They're trying to throw us off the trail because they just got another, they're valued at $1 billion after doing another funding round. Mm-hmm. So they have a lot of money. They have 3 out of 4 of the music labels. But the thing is, there's so many different streaming services, cloud services out here now.
Yes.
With Spotify, when we first heard about them years ago, it seems like, oh, sound like a really cool idea, but everyone has tried this.
I think, I'm trying to remember when I started to hear people in the UK talking about how great Spotify was. It was at least a couple of years ago, maybe a little bit more, I don't know. But the problem, they've obviously had problems making deals with the big music labels, which they're not alone. Everyone's had some of those problems. Apple seems to be the only company that's really been totally successful. And they're still talking to Warner Music, but they're 3 out of 4 done. Universal.
Warner Music Group is the last holdout.
Yeah, exactly.
But the thing is, even though Apple's been successful, they still don't even. They won't have streaming. They're going to have a download service kind of thing. But
no one's been able to figure it out in the perfect scenario.
Holistically.
And of course, there are a lot of questions. Well, if Spotify has had such a problem up until now, what are they going to compromise on that's going to hurt their potential user base? Are they going to charge more money than something like a competing service like RDO would be charging customers per month? And if so, why would people use Spotify? I think they've really dropped the ball in waiting this long to figure out how to enter the U.S. market because no one's really sitting around waiting for Spotify anymore.
They do have deals, or at least they've talked about deals with Facebook, which is a great way in.
That's true.
So if you have a somewhat anointed music app that works on Facebook and it's Spotify, people will just flock to it easily just because it's Facebook. People will probably give it deference, try it out first before going, I'll try it Mog, I'll try it RDO. These are very odd little things, but if it's Facebook's thing, maybe. But then again, music on social networks, we saw that before. It was MySpace. That worked out really well.
Well, one would hope that this would be some sort of a graduation from the days of MySpace music. But yeah, that's true. Spotify and Facebook could be a huge market killer, to use a buzzword. But I just feel like the market has moved on. Cloud services, everybody's got a cloud service.
Everyone's onto vinyl now.
Yeah, so it's a cloud.
Everybody has a cloud service, but is there one, like you said, one real cloud service that everybody kind of anoints as the cream of the crop? And Spotify really kind of has that mind share overseas. So it's kind of exciting to know that they're coming here. The hope is that the deals that they've made actually equal, in strength here what it is over there, and I guess that remains to be seen.
Right, because there's the adoption factor, people getting used to using cloud services. If they've got the best collection, that's also a factor.
That's a big
and then
factor,
how much is it going to cost us? Because freemium model over in the UK has already gotten more restrictive than it was a year ago. All right, moving on to Android tablets that they aren't doing well, so nobody's going to make them anymore.
But we'll talk about that right after the Netflix.
Oh, that's right.
Since they sponsor our show, maybe.
I know. My flippant, no, I'm actually not real. I don't really mean that about Android. You'll have to stick around to actually get the real explanation. Don't shoot the messenger. First, we want to thank Netflix for sponsoring this episode of TNT. Thank you, Iyaz.
No problem.
See, I couldn't do it without you guys. Netflix, you guys know this, but maybe one of your friends or your moms or your dad's day is coming up. It might be a good gift. It is the service that helps you stream thousands of TV episodes and movies directly to you instantly. You save time, you save money, you definitely save hassle. And there are a few ways to do it. You can watch Netflix movies and TV shows on your Mac or your PC or your iPad app. I love doing it that way. It's very mobile. On your iPhone, some Android phones work as well. Gaming consoles, Xbox, PS3, Nintendo Wii, or you can watch Netflix right on your TV. If you're not a gamer, then maybe use Apple TV, Roku box.
Your TV might have it built in as well. Netflix, it's kind of hard to find a device that doesn't have Netflix integration at this point.
Yeah, my Sony Bravia has it built right in. Although I do usually go through my Apple TV, but that's just because I like the interface. You've got options is the point. With Netflix, you can use any of these devices. You can also start watching. Think about this. You're at home, you're watching a movie, and you go, oh my gosh, I have to go pick up my dry cleaning. Crap, I'm really enjoying this movie. You can stop where you are and finish the movie on another device using the same Netflix account, and it'll pick up right where you left off. That really comes in handy more times than you can imagine, and you can, of course, cancel anytime. So here's the deal. We're offering you 30 days free if you go to netflix.com/twit. 30 days free for movies, TV shows. I mean, that's free content. You definitely want to take advantage of this. And again, if you're already a Netflix customer, that you know that they're awesome, and consider it maybe a good gift idea for somebody who just graduated, or maybe their birthday's coming up or something. I would have loved a Netflix year subscription back in the day before I was a member. I would have been a member much sooner. Again, that's netflix.com/twit. And we thank them so much for sponsoring this episode of TNT. Now back to those Android tablets that are just going to go away. There won't be any more Android tablets.
Those are done.
Oh no, they're done.
Yeah,
that's
it.
According to a Digitimes report, the handset makers that make Android tablets, like Samsung and everybody, well, not Samsung in particular, but these companies have shifted focus back from the development of these tablets to 4 to 5 inch smartphones, because sales of Android devices not doing too well. Only Samsung's actually, that's like the one company that's getting a little bit of market share in the tablet space for Android. And the report's based on a reduction of investment in the development of 7 to 10 inch tablets and an increase of money spent on smartphones. So theoretically, what's going on is money's just being shifted, right? Where is this company going to, whatever company's making these devices, where are they going to put their money? R&D on smartphones right now seems to be where it's going, and not tablets.
But it's the sensationalism of Android tablets are a bust. They're going back to smartphones. It just doesn't work. I mean, that's total baloney. I mean, there have been.
I don't believe it's total baloney. I think it's like half baloney.
I don't think it's. I think it's no. I don't.
Let's see. There's about.
I don't see any hardware manufacturers stopping
their
production of tablets.
30 Android Honeycomb apps, right?
I think
that's not true.
There will be on there, Android Man.
I mean, obviously, that's probably one of the bigger issues at work here, is the fact that there aren't a whole lot of tablet-specific apps yet. But I mean, Honeycomb has hardly been out for a very short while. I'm sure a lot of this, I have to imagine, has to be due to the fact that there are so many Android tablets that are on a version of Android that is not tablet optimized, is not meant for a tablet. Therefore, the experience sucks. It's kind of the whole reason why Google, kind of held on to their open source, that whole open source thing with Honeycomb, because they want to kind of avoid that and kind of lock it down. I'm sure hardware manufacturers are kind of, haven't realized what they'd hoped to see, but I don't see them stopping to make tablets. Tablets as just a general form factor are too big to turn away from.
Clearly, I mean, you look at the success of the iPad. It's not just the fact that it's an Apple iPad; it's that it's a tablet that works really well for certain things that people really like, and they like the size, they like the form factor, and so on. Apple's not going to be the only success story in the tablet market. I think what we're seeing is all of the companies that rushed tablets out that weren't well thought out enough in order to compete with the iPad, and they shouldn't have. They shouldn't have rushed anything to market that ended up looking subpar to the iPad, especially when the iPad 2 came out this year. So now you're getting a bunch of companies who are back to the drawing board. And in the meantime, they're going to work on smartphones if they know that they're going to make money doing that.
The other thing is, I mean, this talked about a reduction in investments in the development of tablets, but the idea is a lot of these companies didn't make tablets before, so obviously they throw a ton of money at it, tried to figure out, okay, how do we make this work? How does this work? How does this work? And then they go, okay, now we have that figured out, we can put the money back on these 4 to 5 inch touchscreen, because that's actually the new popular form factor, the 5-inch phone. I don't quite understand.
Isn't it weird how it fluctuates? It really is all over the map. One year it's the smaller, the better. The next year it's the tablet, and then it's like the middle size.
And then HP's doing whatever they want with their little, what is it, the Veer, which is like this big.
It's the Me Too, and all of the money goes into the Me Too. Can I get some attention? Me. Oh, never mind. That was a bad idea. Okay, back to the drawing board. Okay, we got another. It's amazing. The ebb and flow. It happens quickly.
Absolutely. And I think the real thing to look at here is where do Android tablets sit in a year when the actual tablet platform that of Honeycomb and whatever they roll out from now to then, how has that really kind of laid the groundwork?
You're putting faith in ice cream sandwich?
Absolutely. I think Google is really holding.
You are asking the all about Android guy.
I know.
If he has faith in ice cream sandwich.
I mean,
I think the answer is
I'm a fan of
obvious.
Android. Of course, that's going to paint my outlook a little bit, but I actually really like Honeycomb, and I think that if they continue making the changes to the OS that they did to create Honeycomb, then yes, they definitely can.
I'll call it here first. The touchpad will win the tablet wars. I'm laughing if you can't tell.
Well, I don't know. You said you called it. You called it. You guys heard him.
Yeah,
heard it here.
we got
Come
it
on
recorded.
now.
Keep that there for the prediction.
That is
Touchpad
on record.
to win.
Record. All right, moving on to Kindle spam because they've run out of other ideas. No, apparently the idea that anyone can publish a book, throw it up on Kindle, offer it for free or for a very low
You can
price.
offer for 99 cents, $2
Something
even,
like
and you get
that.
to keep a very sizable portion of that sale price.
70%, I think, or so, is leading people to be throwing up all sorts of misleading book titles with a bunch of junk within, or directly ripping off other people's work and slapping some sort of title on that that's misleading enough so that they end up getting that 70% of what someone bought for it.
Right, these scammers are actually taking other people's work, or they're using something called PLR, which is private label rights content. They're basically republishing this stuff and charging $1 or $2 for it. And what's happening is because they get all the profits, they don't care how many they actually sell. They're going to make money on this because to put up a Kindle book, it doesn't cost you anything. So it's just like every other spam scheme out there. They flood the market. And the other thing that's really causing a problem is that the Kindle market now becomes very difficult to navigate. You're trying to find out something about a particular topic, and now you have all these false results in there because of this auto-generated garbage from all kinds of scammers. It's actually, I mean, I guess this is, it shows how successful Amazon is because they have the ability to create a whole form of spam. I mean, this has actually created a whole marketplace for it.
Thanks,
But
Amazon. You guys rock.
on the bad side, they have to figure out how will Amazon have to react to make sure this stuff doesn't happen. They have to actually look at the material to make sure they're not seeing a bunch of this stuff, mucking up their catalog.
But that gets tricky too, because not only would that be extremely time-consuming and probably expensive for Amazon to do that, but let's say that you are some sort of small-time publisher. Do you really want Amazon saying thumbs up, thumbs down? I mean, it should be easy to tell a book, something that's legitimate, from something that's not. But what if they weren't paying close enough attention and your stuff was being pulled out of the store?
Well, I mean, I could see that problem. I mean, if they could figure out a filter, kind of like they do with I mean, a lot of companies do this with email, right? You can do a spam filter. And the other thing is Amazon does review, they have this Kindle singles, right? These things, these short articles. They do review those. Obviously, it's a lot easier to check those because who knows if it's 100, 200 pages, they don't want to check that against human eyes. But they could have a filter. They could figure this out. I'm sure there's a way around it, but I don't know if that's going to lead to any increases in any other prices. Like if they have to start putting people employed, or they have to make people employed to do this, this is going to make the costs rise, like kind of everywhere. Like you can imagine Kindle books costing a little bit more because it was verified.
Also, if you get spam, and let's say there's spam that leaks out of my spam filter in Gmail, and, it ends up in my inbox, and I go, this is spam, and I report it, and I don't think about it anymore. If I were to go ahead and click whatever link and buy whatever illicit drugs that, they wanted me to buy through the spam email, it's kind of on me, right? It's not Gmail's fault. Can people go after Amazon if they've bought something that ended up being bunk and say, this was in your store. This was an item within Amazon's Kindle store. This is not a book. I want my money back. That's a headache for Amazon, too.
That's right. Yeah, so they either have to put people on the refund system of, oh, great, that book wasn't real, or they have to put somebody in charge of actually filtering the books.
Filtering it out before it gets to folks. Either way, it's a hassle. Okay, Sony has pulled some movies from Netflix streaming thanks to a dispute between Stars and Sony Movies. I guess the deal is, and if I understand this correctly, Stars has deals. Sony has a deal with Stars to run some of their movies for a certain amount of time on Stars channels, and there are a few of them. And after that run is over, some of that stuff makes it to Netflix, and then Netflix has instant streaming rights. Correct?
Right. I mean, that's like a two-stage thing. What's going on right now is that the Sony movies that would run on Stars Play on Netflix are being pulled because Stars doesn't have the deal with Sony in place to play those movies. So there's a bit of a hole in their programming there. And so Netflix is calling this the removal temporary because obviously they don't want to run into this problem where they're losing content.
Yeah, well, of course they're calling it temporary because they're like, Sony and Stars are bickering, and so we had to pull the Sony material, but it'll be fixed later.
I mean, yeah. I mean, the thing is, it's in Stars and
Sony's not
Sony's
down for good.
best interest to solve this because Sony's going to want to get paid and Stars wants to get paid, and the deals probably are in place that these are the kinds of movie studios that Netflix should have access to through their Stars Play deal. On top of that, I mean, this made me think about the idea that, okay, streaming is great. Cloud services, we talk about Spotify. We talk about iTunes Match and all these ridiculous cloud stuff. But, at a point, if you don't own your stuff anymore, it's something like this. A contract dispute could cause you to no longer have access to something you always had access to. So that's why I'm always very curious when everyone was like, oh, we'll go to the cloud, it'll be great. It's like, but unless it's your own content, and you don't own that content, you could lose it.
That's true. You are definitely out of control of a lot of the content that you are paying for directly when you use a cloud model, potentially. If two companies start squabbling with each other and a third company, like Netflix in this case, has to take down content temporarily, however long temporary is, who knows, then we're the ones who are losing, even though we're paying for the content that we thought we were going to get.
We've seen this kind of stuff happen with cable companies, too, where they have disputes with networks. They go, oh, you want to carry our network, you got to pay us extra money, and the cable company says no, and then you lose Fox or something. I mean, this kind of thing, it's kind of annoying when business gets in the way of technology. I mean, it'd be nice to be able to watch what you want to watch when you want to, but this kind of thing happens. And then Netflix also mentioned, oh, don't forget, we're going to have Mad Men in a couple of weeks, so you're not going to even notice
Mad Men and The Fighter as well, which I'm actually really looking forward to, and I guess not a Sony Pictures. I don't remember who made it, but not Sony. It's funny, on the way up here, the first thing I said to you when I walked into the office today was, what does Sony make that's like a really big movie that would really upset me if all of a sudden I didn't have access to it? I couldn't think of anything because I just don't think of movies in terms of the studio. But obviously, it's a big collection.
The only one I could think of was Spider-Man.
Well, it's big.
At one point, Sony was kind of taking a hit on that whole electronics company thing they were doing. They were kind of failing, and Sony Pictures.
Remember that?
Yeah, Sony Pictures was that one movie of Spider-Man did like $1 billion, so it actually raised all their numbers.
Well, let's hope that Sony and Stars can get their acts together so we Netflix users can watch our movies. And finally, before we get to the news fuse, the average U.S. smartphone data usage is up 89% as cost per megabyte goes down 46%. What does this all mean?
We've got a Nielsen report, and Nielsen analyzed cell phone bills of 65,000 smartphone owners, and they found some pretty interesting numbers. And we're talking about, on average, users used 435 megabytes of data each month for the first quarter of 2010, and that's up a lot from last year. So this is how it breaks down. Android users, 582 megabytes per month. iPhone users, 492. Windows Phone 7 users, 317. Windows Mobile, which I was surprised still exists, 174 megabytes per month. And Blackberry with only 127 megabytes a month. So
now, is that because Blackberry users are primarily using small format files like email back and forth, or is it because there aren't that many Blackberry users?
Oh, no, BlackBerry's got a huge install base. It has to be about what kind of data these people are using. I mean,
and
emails
there just aren't
and
a lot of
texts.
streaming movies on Blackberries.
Apparently, people are not watching a lot of movies or using a lot of apps, I guess. I mean, if you think about how many apps you can use on an iPhone, you could use Netflix and use up a ton of bandwidth. It's something like that, or Slingbox. You can do it. And the cost per megabyte's down this year, so that's a plus. Last year was 14 cents per megabyte. Now it's 8 cents per megabyte.
Wow, it's almost half.
But I don't know how that works against all the data caps that are coming in now. I mean, just because it's cheaper, you can run out of it faster.
Well, that's for sure. I mean, on average, users using 435 megabytes of data per month, I mean, a lot of data plans are not going to cover that. That's for sure. Well, I mean, and you figure, we use streaming. Movies are always an easy thing to say. Oh, streaming movies, for example, that would eat up a lot of data. But on my iPad, some of my apps are huge data hogs. I mean, sometimes just to initially download the app is however many megabytes, or they draw from the internet each time you look up something. Some like Wikipedia-based models are huge data guzzlers. So stuff that you got to watch out for.
I mean,
at least it's cheaper per megabyte.
I guess it's a good thing because if the data usage is going up, that means these devices are easier to use. I remember they used to be like the Moto Razr. You had internet access then. You didn't want to use it, but you had it then. So at least now, I guess it's easy enough that people can use up data like crazy.
I guess so. All right, with that, let's move on to the news. A new piece, that's fine. You know, you keep me on my toes, Howell. I like that about you. Yeah. New piece of malware is taking aim at Bitcoin. Trojan horse, program called infostealer.coinbit. I love that. Was discovered by Symantec, and it steals Bitcoin wallets. Wah, wah. Right now, InfoStealer only targets Windows machines. Symantec suggests you encrypt your wallet and choose a strong password.
Seriously, that's how you're going to stop this from being cracked.
6 months ago, I would have read this, and I would have been like, this doesn't make any sense. The Bitcoin revolution has opened up a whole new terminology for us.
Now that you can steal money online, this is how easy it is.
Yeah.
The New York Times reports that Facebook will finally release an iPad app. That's real? Okay. The app has been in development for close to a year, and Mark Zuckerberg has been very hands-on with the project. The app ought to be available in the next couple of weeks, and of course, Facebook has not said anything officially about this.
Wait a minute, so this means that they're actually considering the iPad mobile now? Right?
Or they're just saying, you know what,
or they're just like, we do mobile and we do iPad.
I find this whole thing strange just because of the news this week that Facebook was working on a non-Apple App Store based product.
If they could run their own marketplace through their own app.
Ooh,
and that's not going to work. I think that'll be a violation in terms of service.
Yeah, something like that. It's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting timing now. Facebook saying, "Oh, iPad app, yeah, we're doing that." Of course, why wouldn't we be? ICANN is expected to approve some new rules on top-level domains Monday that will allow for URLs like iPad.apple or Android.google to come into existence. It will cost $185,000 to apply for the domain, so it's chump change, you know, for you and me. And the person or company will have to prove that they have a claim to the name they want in a move to dissuade squatters.
So I can get .Iyaz if I can somehow raise $185,000.
Oh, you've got that laying around. Don't be modest.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You know, I forgot about the millions of dollars I'm paid. Consumer Reports has crowned a new ebook champion, and it's the Barnes & Noble's newest Nook, the Simple Touch Reader. The Nook narrowly beat out Amazon's Kindle by 1 point. This is the first time the Kindle has been knocked off its perch. No word if riots broke out in Amazon's Seattle headquarters over the upset.
For those of you who are psyched about Nokia's Windows phones, woo-woo, we've got some information for you. The first Nokia devices carrying Microsoft's mobile OS will launch in France, Germany, Italy, Spain, and the Netherlands. I was just going down some sort of to place I didn't want to go, just there with my accents, and the UK. So if you're anywhere else, including Nokia's home country of Finland, you've just got to wait, bro or sis.
Apple and Samsung's patent dispute just got bigger because Apple amended its complaint saying that even more Samsung products infringe on more Apple patents. Some of the new products that are allegedly Apple clones are the Nexus S 4G, the Galaxy S2, and the Galaxy Tab 10.1. The complaint also uses stronger language like Samsung makes, quote, products that blatantly imitate the appearance of Apple's products to capitalize on Apple's success. So they're having fun together.
We're so successful, we're going to sue you.
You so want to be us.
Yeah. We have so many patents that you've infringed on. It's not even funny. We are Apple. All right, make a virus, go to jail. That's pretty much the rule. New legislation enacted in Japan says that the creation or distribution of a computer virus without a reasonable cause is punishable by up to 3 years in prison or 500,000 yen in fines. The same legislation also makes it illegal to send email with pornographic images to a random number of people. One person, no big.
Lots of
random number. You're going to jail, possibly.
The U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee voted and agrees that illegal streaming of video should be a felony in most cases. The Commercial Felony Streaming Act focuses on illegal streaming of video for commercial purposes. Unsurprisingly, the act is supported by a lot of the folks in the entertainment industry. The bill will move on to the Senate for consideration.
That's it? That's all you have to say about that?
I can go to the randomizer.
Lawyer. Okay, fine.
How about that?
Let's just do that.
Randomizer.
Iyaz, maybe this will strike your fancy a little bit more than Senate stuff. How about a Roomba that tweets? Oh, yeah, you got that right.
A Roomba that tweets?
You know the Roomba, the little robot vacuum that vacuums around in circles? It's not a brobot. It's a robot.
Okay.
For bros. Bros can use it.
I guess so.
As much as anybody else. Yeah, so this is...
a web-controlled tweeting Roomba.
I'm trying to explain
That's exactly what this is. It's a Roomba that's attached to an Arduino.
That's pretty much what it is.
And it has a Twitter account, so as it does stuff, you can actually go to twitter.com/theroomba. You can see all kinds of brilliant writings. Doc, sweet Doc.
Hey, put me down.
37065.
Time to clean.
Time to clean. Yeah, so I guess, there's 14 followers right now for the Roomba. It might actually be going up because this story...
No, I'm seeing 3 followers.
Yeah, well, they lost a few.
Well, maybe you have an old copy.
They lost a few.
Maybe.
I'm at 14 over here. But the thing is...
Maybe because you're not signed in or something.
Oh, maybe.
Okay.
I don't know.
Would you want your Roomba to tweet?
Well, okay, so the answer is no for a variety of reasons. First of all, it's boring. Second of all, although I would love my friends to know that I'm vacuuming regularly, I don't really necessarily want to share that information with them. I mean, I would assume that the Roomba, some stuff we could look forward to are some twit pics of the wall of dust that was behind my couch before the Roomba got involved. That happens. Yeah, but I'm not sharing that with everybody.
I think TwitPic could work on this. Help me identify what exactly I've captured, and that way people can play games with this. It's the gamification of tweeting Roombas. That's the next social phenomena.
Yeah, it's going to take the world by storm.
I'm telling you.
I think the Roomba just needs a social media expert to kind of spice up those tweets a little bit, to get more of an interactivity going on, because I don't have anything to reply to when I see time to clean.
A tweeting Roomba wasn't exciting enough. The fact that it's content for you wasn't
I think the Roomba
compelling.
needs an assistant, a social media advisor.
Okay.
Yes. I said it.
Somebody out there, you can be the intern for the Roomba, or you can build this yourself, because there are instructions at instructables.com. This is one of those things you just do because you can.
You do it because you can. There are Roomba fans out there, people who love their Roomba. Let it tweet. Just let it. All right, onto the calendar. $2 video game rentals begin today at Redbox. So if you're a Redbox customer, $2 video games rentals, go nuts. Just in time for the weekend. June 18th is free RPG day. Will you be participating? I certainly hope so. And developers for the Wii U, the rumor is that you'll get hardware prototypes so you can start making games this July. Very exciting.
Great. The Wii U. That's going to be
Wow. Wow. You just dissed that last calendar item so hard.
I did. That's what I do with calendar items.
Wow.
I point at it and it
laughs at them. That was a straight Akhtar diss. All right, let's move on to the emails. Ralph from Hull in the UK says, hi, TNT crew. On the subject of venomous reviews, again, this is the Duke Nukem story revisited. What immediately springs to mind is the BBC's TV show Top Gear, and in particular, its lead presenter, Jeremy Clarkson, who's made something of a name for himself through delivering exactly the type of review that Duke Nukem's PR people take exception to. I accept that stylized, abusive prose isn't as helpful as constructive criticism, but it's a lot more entertaining to read and listen to. It seems to me that if you believe in your product, you should be able to stand by it, defend against inaccurate assessments, and strengthen it through taking on board constructive criticism. But then again, I don't work in PR. Ralph, I totally agree with you. I think that you make a good point that a few of these reviews were probably written giddily because people were excited to trash a game that they really truly felt was crap. Mm-hmm. And that's fun to do stuff like that. If you're like, oh my God, this is so bad, I can't wait to tell everybody how bad this is, paragraph after paragraph. So there's a little bit of that I'm sure makes PR people bristly because it's like, you're just knifing us. But at the same time, if you believe in your product, then you should be able to counter with why the game, in fact, you didn't get the game, you don't get the humor, we're proud of ourselves. It almost seems like the more upset you get, the less you really believe in yourself.
Yeah, the real
deep
lesson
down inside.
The real lesson is, if you've done a good job, people will actually notice it. And if you've made Duke Nukem Forever, people will notice that. And they will say what they want to.
Right.
And an email from Johnny A. Solbu talking about episode 258, where we talk about the average age of gamers is 37 years old. He goes, I don't find it any surprise that any gamer is that old. If you think about it, that's the age of those who started playing games when the personal computer era started. Many 37-year-olds had a Commodore 64 when they were kids. So then he goes on to talk about that. And, I've seen that. I mean, the thing is, you get older, you had these really cool toys when you were a kid, and then you're like, I can buy more toys now because I make money. So I can go do that. Like, I bought a Voltron that way.
So there are the people. So I was a NES customer, in 5th grade or however old I was when the first Nintendo, everyone played Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt, right? Mm-hmm. That's all we did. And that was the peak of my Nintendo use. I mean, I've used Nintendo systems over the years, but I mean, I was like an everyday Nintendo user a long time ago. But that doesn't mean that everyone who gets older starts to drop off on their gaming use. So he makes a good point. You could be 37 years old and been like, I just have more experience than the rest of you little kids.
That and the other thing is that Nintendo knows that people played this stuff and has nostalgia, and they're like, hey, here's a virtual console on the Wii. You can play Mario Brothers again. Just give us $1. I mean, It's kind of a great idea that they realize that, you have money now. Here you go.
Right. The older you are, the more likely you have two things, money and nostalgia. So they can get a little more out of you. Thanks, Johnny, for the email. Want to remind everybody before we end this Liquid Friday episode of TNT that you can still buy a Twit Brick and help support our new studio. The website is bricks.twit.tv, and it is a way that you can buy a brick, you can write something on it, you can have your name emblazoned on the brick, or I don't know, your blog, or a inspirational quote, for example. You can put the name of your cat or dog, fish,
or if there's a letter that you
bird.
Like.
Yeah.
Just a letter.
One letter.
The letter O tends to be, people love the wheel. So it reminds them of kind of the endless.
Or if you have a longer message, you can get a
four-line.
You can get a 4-line brick, or you can get your logo on this brick. So we get to see it, or you can come by and visit. You'll have a reason to show up to Twit Studios and be like, I just want to see my brick.
Exactly.
Go ahead. You can see your brick.
Someone had asked us, and we answered yesterday, but I'll answer it again today. If for whatever reason you buy a brick and you're not going to make it to our new studio anytime soon, and you want us to take a picture of the brick, or maybe have Leo standing in front of it or whatever, not a problem. We would be happy to do that and send you the picture. So if that...
Unless the brick is really low, then we're going to have to...
Well, then we'll just get down on the flow.
Okay.
With a brick.
Gotcha.
I don't know.
That's what you'll do?
It's like I got to go rap.
So that's right. You heard it here. You can actually request Sarah Lane to get really low.
I will get down.
Buy your brick.
I will get down on the flow with the brick for you guys.
For show.
All right, so that's it for us. Happy Friday, everybody. Remember, you can email us at tnt@twit.tv and questions, comments, and delightful prose, what you might want on your brick, for example, or send us a voicemail, 260-TNT-SHOW is the number. See you guys later.
Bye.